Hi everyone, Drinktony Uptano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it is time for a review of the new 100 GECS remix album, 1000 GECS and the Tree of Clues. So yeah, brand new record of remixes from St. Louis pop duo 100 GECS. Over the past year or so, Laura Les and Dylan Brady have become two of the most talked about names in the modern music underground. Their debut album 1000 GECS has proven to be such a breakthrough moment for hyper, glitchy, abrasive, experimental pop music. So much so it's hard not to see it as the shape of pop to come. Plus it seems to be a vision their more forward-thinking contemporaries share too, as there's been no shortage of names willing to jump on the bandwagon to remix music from this thing since last fall. So now all of these remixes, all of these revisions have culminated into this new remix album. And in all of my years covering music, I've heard tons of remix albums, some of which have been utterly pointless, some of which have been pretty entertaining, and some of which have been very weird and conceptual. However, 1000 GECS and the Tree of Clues here really takes the cake, not just in terms of the insane diversity of the names involved in this project. Everyone from Caro Caro Bonito to Injury Reserve to Fall Out Boy to Rico Nasty to Black Dresses, to just name a few. Then there's the matter of the insane amount of liberties that are taken in remixing some of these tracks to the point where they are nearly unrecognizable. In some cases, even get more experimental and abrasive. Now, even though the live tracks at the end of this LP are pretty fun, along with newer cuts like Came to My Show and Toothless, I'm going to spend this review just concentrating on the core remixes of 1000 GECS and the Tree of Clues. There are 14 of them, which you may notice is longer than the original track list of the 1000 GECS record, and that's because some tracks surprisingly get remixed twice. The entire project kicks off with an A.G. Cook remix of the wonderful track Money Machine. The PC music crossover on this record is not all too surprising, as Dylan Brady has aligned himself with that scene for quite a while now. And while this track has been floating about for a bit, let me just reiterate that I love this expansive, wondrous remix. Turning Laura's very aggressive and over-the-top rant at the start of the song into like this whisper, I think, is a stroke of genius, then slowly building everything up from there with all these swirling synth arpeggios and guitar arpeggios, eventually hitting this massive peak of huge bassy hits of percussion. The song seems to spend more time building up or breaking down and transitioning more than it actually spends like grooving, but I still get a lot of gratification out of this remix. There's also the super abrasive finale of the song where the entire thing is just swallowed in distortion, which as you listen to this entire project, you realize becomes a bit of a consistent theme. The song Ringtone doesn't undergo too many changes. It's still its very poppy and bubbly self. Most of the remix's magic is contained within its feature list. We have a very smooth chorus from Charlie XCX, a very cute and irresistibly heartening verse from Sarah Bonito of Caro Caro Bonito fame, and then Rico Nasty is just so colorful, so over the top, so energetic in her feature on the back end. Easily the most commanding appearance on the entire song. This version, in my view, is built out, beefed up, and equally as enjoyable as the original. Then we get Injury Reserve's 745 remix, which again, a crossover that should not be surprising considering that Dylan had a hand in producing their awesome single Jailbreak the Tesla. If there are any real surprises with this remix, it comes from the remix itself, which in my view is one of the more unrecognizable remixes on the record, as Injury Reserve really take a lot of liberties with this song. Still, the slow, kooky, booming beats and horn samples and very charismatic and eccentric verse from Richie are all very enjoyable. There's just a strangely slow and melodic transition in the last leg that really kind of kills the momentum of the entire track. I still do admire how wild and out there this revision is, but I'm even more confused by the progression of the Danny L. Harlcore remix to follow, as this track sounds like it's in a constant state of introducing and building up to a payoff that never really occurs. Thankfully, DORIAN ELECTRA's remix of the same song Geck to You on the back end of the record is so much more gratifying, sensible, and coherent. Funnily enough, I also get quite a bit out of the Fall Out Boy, Nicole Dollanganger, and Craig Owens version of Hand Crushed by a Mallet, which, from the original 1000 GECS record, isn't necessarily one of my favorite tracks, but this new version has really caused me to look at the original in a different way. For one, Patrick Stump's soaring lead vocals really make that original lead melody light up. The Craig Owens build-up is great, then the very chill, low-key, dark, and moody section that Nicole Dollanganger takes over is fantastic too, and the way all of this transitions into a throttling, raging pop-punk finale. Then, of course, the entire track is swallowed in so much crushing distortion it's about to split my head into. RICCO HARVER's 800 decibel Cloud remix is pretty satisfying, despite being the shortest remix on this entire project, but in under 2 minutes he comes through with a pretty effective progression of just gargantuan bro step bass and these zany earthquaking beats. Then I would say I was pretty skeptical going into the Stupid Horse remix off this record, because that is one of my favorite tracks on the original. How could you improve upon that amazing fusion of electronic music and ska? But I do like the way Girlfriend of the Year's warbly auto-tuned lyrics do change the narrative of the song a little bit. The driving hyper house beat on the instrumental is very thrilling too. Then the arena punk outro that it transitions into suddenly is a welcome change of pace as well. There are then portions of Umru's Ringtone remix that I find pretty gratifying, specifically the build-ups and breakdowns and cycling distorted loops toward the very end. Also, the inclusion of cell phones vibrating on like a wooden table I thought was a pretty genius move as well. But I do wish he took more liberties with the song in the first leg. The way he incorporated the beats that he did just felt like some very light alterations that didn't go quite far enough, at least not far enough for a majority of the material on this project going as crazy as it does. Then the I Would Never Stop remix with Tommy Cash as well as Hannah Diamond sounds like Eurodance on cocaine. In other words, I can't get enough of it. Cash's verse on the track is very zany, meanwhile Hannah Diamond's singing is smooth as hell, but mostly on this track I'm captivated by the speedy, futuristic, club-friendly dance beat. The song 745 gets remixed once again, but now by Black Dresses, who in their version bring abrasive glitches and distorted black metal style screams into the fold. The sound of this remix is so blasted, it's so burnt, but still relatively groovy while maintaining the original song's key melodic elements. With the GECGECGEC remix featuring Lil West and Tony Velour, West delivers a charismatic, tough verse that has a bit of a DaBaby vibe to it in terms of the flow and some of the word choices, but it fits the vibe of the track somehow, and I just love hearing that sound incorporated into this very unlikely context. Then the acoustic transition around the midpoint is one of the smoother sudden transitions on the entire record, and the high-pitched, heartening singing that happens throughout this acoustic bit is very sweet on the ears as well. Then with 99 Jake's version of I Would Never Stop, I don't dislike this remix, but the most notable and likable quality about it to me is the somewhat Crystal Castles-ish passage that is presented in the second half. Then nearly everything else about it is relatively overpowering, distorted, very busy, reminds me of gabber music but pushed to like the next level of extreme, and on a record with so much distortion, so much extremity, so many overpowering moments, it sort of blends into the background as there aren't a lot of distinct qualities about the extremity and the eccentricity of this track. Then there is the second remix of Hand Crushed by a Mallet from No Thank You, which is almost rendered useless by the Fall Out Boy remix, because not only is it better, but it also goes into a rock-oriented direction with better phases, dynamics, vocals. There is quite a bit of distortion thrown onto the No Thank You version. The whole track is just swallowed in it by the end of the song. But again, the way that distortion is employed here isn't too much different than how it's employed on many other tracks on this record. In a word, just not all that special or distinct, especially at the end of this album. So overall, while 1000 gecs and The Tree of Clues is not a perfect record, it's not a perfect remix album, I do think this is a wonderful companion piece to the original 1000 gecs. Building on the bizarre and unique qualities of that record while also showcasing some very harsh takes on electronic music styles that are often too niche to get as much shine as they are on this record. Then there's also the song I Need Help Immediately, which is a bit of a weird interlude on the original gecs, but I'm surprised nobody decided to approach that in any way on this album, because, I mean, you could for sure take the stems from that and turn them into just about anything. With that being said, though, I still do enjoy this quite a bit, and I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 7 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, 100 gecs, forever.